The SEC, big news Thursday, right? You've heard of big noon Saturday. Well, big news Thursday emanated from the SEC. And if you're just getting off work, if you're, tucking the kids to bed, pretty early bedtime, even on the East Coast. But whatever, you do you. I don't want to tell you how to raise your kids. If you've been busy, though, the SEC kind of dropped a bombshell on us today. They're going to a 9-game conference schedule starting in 2026. Now, this is worth a paper pop, I would think. Going to have a lot of paper pops this season, but this is 2 paper pops. Here's the way it's going to work. Obviously, they're going to play one more conference game per team than they have been. They've been on 8 since like 1992. That's not a joke. They've really been on 8 since 1992. Ross Dellinger, friend of the program always, but now colleague of the program. You see on the screen here, he, among many, released it kind of at the same time because the league released it today. Anyway, here's what it means. Like if you're Georgia, you're going to have your 3 permanent rivals. For Georgia, that would be Florida, Tennessee, and Auburn, I would guess. That's pretty simple. Then they would have 6 rotational teams that they play each year. That 6 plus 3, stats and info tells me, equals 9. Still no divisions. They're not going back to divisions. So top 2 teams go to the SEC championship game. Same way it is now. They'll just be playing one more conference game per team per season. Now, the math works out like this. You will face every team in the conference at least once every 2 years. Tennessee will play Texas A&M at least once over a rolling 2-year period. Tennessee will go to College Station at least once over a rolling 4-year period, just like A&M will go to Neyland Stadium at least once every rolling 4-year period. This has been a disaster in the SEC scheduling model. Georgia still has not been to College Station, Texas to play a football game. The Aggies have been in the league since 2012. You have got kids who were born that year who are not far away from getting their learner's licenses that have still yet to see themselves drive, but they're there almost, and they have yet to see Kirby Smart go into Kyle Field, at least as a head coach. He went there as a coordinator with Alabama. So that's good. Also, the SEC said, oh, but wait, we're not done yet. And this was the most interesting part. They're still going to require their teams in the SEC to play one Power 4 out-of-conference game. Now, you know what, I'm going to save it. But that's a more shrewd move than you think it is. That's good for strength of schedule. It's good for quality of competition. Good for the old season ticket holder. There's more to that than meets the eye. So this was coming, as we told you on this show many times, at least I thought it was coming the moment that strength of schedule metrics changed. The playoff selection process changed. And that happened this week too. In fact, it feels like about 48, no more than 72 hours ago, news came down that the College Football Playoff Committee was changing its selection process. This wasn't a surprise. We were pretty sure this was coming. And to not bore you with the details, what they're going to do is they're changing the way they define strength of record, strength of schedule. In other words, if I'm 10-2 and you're 9-3, but you played a much tougher strength of schedule than me, you're going to get more benefit of the doubt. I'm going to get less benefit of the doubt. That's always the way it should have worked. I've been an ambassador of that. I've been a supporter of that. The SEC looked at it and said, everyone's calling for us to go to 9 conference games per year, but we already think we play in the best and deepest conference in America. We're not going to make a move to acquiesce you in the Big Ten or anyone else that's crying foul on us until we know that we're not hamstringing ourselves from a playoff selection process. Well, playoff selection process changed. Don't know the specifics yet. More on that in a second. But it changed, and so then the SEC changed. This was not, you do this, I do that, though. There was a lot more to it than that. But that was the trigger mechanism that I thought needed to get out of the way for the SEC to do this. So they've done it. Now, I listened to a lot of people call for this for a long time. And I've said before, and I'll maintain, none of you would have moved to 9 league games if you ran the SEC, if you were in their position. You would have had the exact same stance that they've had. So I don't really have much time to listen to criticism, whether you be a head coach in the Big Ten or you be a fan in the Pac, well, rest in peace, old girl, rest in peace, Pac-10, Pac-12. But you get my point there. A lot of you hate the SEC, and that's fine. That's your constitutional right. And so they breathe, and you got a problem with how deep the breath was. That's fine. Again, that's your right. You wouldn't have done anything different than they've been doing. But now they've made the move. So I was listening to Greg Sankey earlier today. I believe he was on the Paul Feinbaum show. And he said something, and I don't want to gloss over this. A lot of things are going to get lost in the weeds here. I don't want to gloss over this. This is an important statement he made. He said, we still need full clarity on the selection process. That's very important. And what he's saying there is, yeah, we've seen the words on a piece of paper, but we really want to see, when it comes time to choose SMU or Alabama, SMU or South Carolina, SMU or Ole Miss, how is the future going to play out any different than the past has? Now, again, I'm not asking you what your opinion was on whether SMU should have gotten in or Alabama should have gotten in. Whatever your opinion is, you may share mine. I thought the right teams got in last year. But some people don't agree with that. And Greg Sankey's down there representing a conference, and he's just speaking for athletic directors, basically, and coaches and university presidents or whomst he answers to. So he's trying to get the best deal for his league, but he's talking like they don't really fully know how the tumbler's going to fall into place. And he's right, because they don't. That's another intentional pause. There's a lot of thought out there that, the SEC got its way again. Well, the SEC kind of got the direction it wanted to move the ball down the hill towards, but they don't know either. So it's important to remember this 9-game league conference, or this 9-game conference schedule move is next year. So they got one more year of playing 8 to see how the playoff committee handles things. So let's say this year plays out exactly like last year did. Every game goes the same way somehow, some way, and you've got, yet again, 9-3 Alabama, 9-3 South Carolina, whoever it may be, versus maybe a 2-loss team from another conference, and the SEC feels like their team's profile surpasses that of the team with the better record in the win-loss category. They're saying, we want to see how that committee handles that. We think we know, but we want to see. So that's important. Now, how do I feel about this? Many of you asked. Well, I don't quite know yet. Hey, wait just a second. I appreciate you guys watching. Most of you are subscribed. If you're not, please do so. It's free. It helps us keep the show free, and that's how we do college football year-round. All right, back to the video. You know that first and foremost, I care about the regular season. So one of the answers is obvious. SEC moves to 9 conference games per year per team. Does that enhance the regular season? That's a no-brainer. Yes, it does. So on that hand, in my first and foremost hand, it's a win. Unequivocal win. The more I get to see Auburn versus Florida, the better. Used to be an annual game, by the way. Tell your kids about it, or tell the kids to look it up. So the more I get to see that, the better. Fans' voices were heard here. Brandon Marcello just put out several tweets he fired off a little while ago after speaking to sources, and he said, hey, the fans making legitimate complaints about their season ticket prices going up, but the inventory of games staying the same, it mattered. So good for you guys. You needed to be heard. You should have been heard. You're getting jacked in the pocketbook, and they're serving up, a home team favored by 40.5 on Saturday. And you can't sell your tickets, by the way. A lot of you tried to do that, and then they monitor that. It's garbage. So this is good. This is good for the fan. Initially, it's good. Well, it's going to be good for the fan regardless as a season ticket holder. It's going to be good TV product, so the viewer wins. So on those fronts, we win. I am wondering about the future here. First thing I'm wondering, doesn't the Big Ten have to counter? Doesn't the Big Ten have to look at this and say, man, we screamed at the SEC to go to 9 league games just like us. Not only did they go to 9 league games, they went to 9 league games and also told all their member institutions, and you better schedule one Power 4 out-of-conference team per year. Hey, we don't even do that. So we called them, and it's almost like they batted that tether ball so hard it came back in our face. So what happens if the Big Ten this year gets a team in an A-B comparative scenario with an SEC team, and the committee looks, and it goes the way of the SEC, or we get to 2026 and an SEC team, because they've loaded up their schedule at 9-3, gets in over a 10-2 Big Ten. Doesn't the Big Ten have to answer this proactively? They should. They should, for the same reasons you told the SEC to do it. If the Big Ten believes in good quality inventory, quality of competition, the betterment of the game overall, the Big Ten ought to mandate at least one Power 4 out-of-conference opponent per year as well. Why not? Don't we want uniformity in scheduling? Someone asked Kurt Signetti online too. Don't we want uniformity? You going to reverse all the out-of-conference scheduling moves that you've made recently to kind of adhere to the SEC scheduling model? Well, hey, man, the SEC scheduling model just changed. So don't the Big Ten scheduling models have to change? Just a question. Just because you may think I'm saying this sarcastically, and to a certain degree I am, but if I'm running the Big Ten, I'm trying to get out in front of this because it's a real embarrassment to have a team with a worse win-loss record from that conference down south get preferential treatment over you in playoff selection processes coming soon because they scheduled up and you didn't. So that's the first thing. The second thing is it feels imminent that the 2026 college football playoff agreement will happen now. I think an agreement will happen. I think they will change this thing moving forward. Now, remember where we've been, because there was kind of a bookmark in all this, because we had to get this out of the way first. So there's been a giant bookmark, sort of debates coming to a head and nobody being the clear winner. So they just bookmarked it, so we'll come back to it later. The SEC has wanted to expand the playoff, but they want to do it with the 5+11 model, which means your conference champs get in and your G5 team gets in, and that's your 5 guaranteed spots. And then 6 through 15, or something like that, is just, or 5 through 6 through 16 or whatever, is nothing but AQs, or nothing but at-larges. So that's just the next highest seeded teams. I'm on record as not liking that at all. A lot of you are on record as liking it. I am still firmly convinced the Big Ten has done a horrifically bad job of articulating the merits of their position. Their position is they want the AQ format. The AQ format is where a conference already has a certain allotment of teams, and then they play their season and then play like a play-in Saturday tournament, little mini tournament, very mini tournament, to fill their seats, but their seats are already set at the table. A lot of you think that's poison. I used to as well. It's not. It's clearly the better option if you want to crystallize value in the regular season. So here's why I told you I'm a little on pause for this, deciding whether it's good or not. If this just leads to more meaningful regular season games, if this leads to a more robust SEC league schedule, better TV inventory, better value for season ticket holders, and that's it, I'm good with it. I love it. But if this was the SEC's give in exchange for their take being the Big Ten caving on the 5+11 playoff format, I hate it. Because the 5+11 playoff format the SEC wants sucks. It zaps value from regular season games. And someone who's a detractor, someone who disagrees with me on that's going to say, nuh-uh, it actually assigns more value to regular season games. How's that? Well, because there are more playoff spots. That means there are more teams playing for more playoff spots. Yeah, there sure are. I guess by that theory, by that logic, though, no matter how big the playoff is, we can go to 64 teams. There's no limit to how much meaning you could add to the regular season by expanding the playoff, right? Some people actually believe that. I, of course, don't, but some do. Just like I don't believe you could endlessly print money and keep the value of the money. Not to teach an economics course here. But I always use this example. I'll use it again. I'll switch the team because for some reason I always mention Tennessee. So let's say that Texas goes into the first week of November and they're 8-1. Let's say the SEC gets their way and it's the 5+11 playoff model. All right, Texas is 8-1 going into the first week of November. Texas knows they can lose 2 of their final 3 games and they're in the playoff. At that point, Texas knows we can lose 2 of our final 3. Now, we may hurt our seeding a little bit. We're not going to go to the conference championship game if that still exists, but we're in. So in this precious 5+11 model where we allegedly are assigning more value to more games, making the regular season more meaningful, you're actually taking the teams capable of winning the whole thing and telling them, hey, as long as you guys get to November with 1 loss or fewer, you'll skate. You're good. Still try and win. You know, it'd be nice to win, but you just make sure you don't get hurt, and you guys will be good. You'll be in the playoff. That sucks. In the AQ model, yeah, the SEC knows they're going to get 4 in. The Big Ten knows they're going to get 4 in. They got no clue which 4. Up to this point, okay, here's how big a mystery it remains. Take that same Texas team, 8-1, entering November. They know nothing. The only way they're guaranteed to make the playoff is if they finish 1 or 2 in the league. And you don't know how those league standings are going to shake out until the very end. Texas could exit the regular season. Let's just say they exit 10-2, and they end up number 3 in the SEC's league standings. They would earn nothing more than the opportunity to play in a play-in game on the first Saturday in December. They lose that play-in game, they're done. They're not in the playoff. At least if we went with my 14-team model. Now, here's what really sucks about it. It doesn't sound like my 14-team model has any traction. So it sounds like even if the Big Ten gets their way on the AQ model, the SEC is going to insist that it's 16 teams, so there are some at-large spots, which to me defeats the whole purpose of what a play-in weekend would be, because that means your higher-seeded teams can lose and still get in the playoff. Which, again, just zaps a lot of the urgency from those games. So I think that this has a lot of playoff ramifications attached to it. That's why I'm hesitant to say I love it. On the surface, it makes total sense, and I do love it. Beneath the surface, I don't know.